Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode. Brilliant. Well, this afternoon we've got Mike Aspinall of NPP Group, who's going to talk to us a little bit about his experiences over the last 6, 12, 9 months as the challenges and the victories and the history, if you like. So welcome, Mike. If you would introduce yourself to the people that are listening today.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Nice to virtually meet you all. As Chris said, I'm Mike Aspinall, Managing Director and founder of the NPP Group, where we fundamentally help busy professionals invest in property for themselves and their future wealth, time, freedom, and all those aspects. We're a bit of a one-stop shop where we can look after the whole process for you and make it nice and easy.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So, I mean, the purpose of these interviews is to see how successful businesses have managed through the process. So looking back over the last 6, 7 months, Mike, how's the COVID outbreak affected you?
We've had some wins and we've had some losses, you know, for sure. And I think if you sort of talk 6, 7 months, I remember going back when we were plummeting into lockdown. We actually sat down with one of the companies that we knew, because it's a group of companies that we run, but we knew that one of the companies was going to sort of completely halt trading. And we actually made some moves before furlough came in to try and get our staff through it ultimately. So looking at reduced hours and looking at reduced wages and just trying to map our way through a very, very obviously uncertain future. But I was really quite pleased with, you know, nobody saw this coming, but the slight foresight that we had, that we thought, if this goes the way we feel it might do, we are not going to trade through this. And you know, taking responsibility for ourselves and not looking towards anybody else for our handout, we'd already made and implemented steps to reduce staff's hours and reduce their wage and actually try and step them through what could have been, you know, 6 months of that, with the main outcome of that being that they had a job at the end of it. You know, right. We're very fortunate that we came into business from an investment background and we've looked after ourselves. So, you know, we had that, but we really sort of attacked that from an employee point of view, saying, look, guys, you know, fundamentally, we have to put steps in place so the business survives, so that you're looked after. Right. And so we did that. And then obviously, fortunately, the government came to the party with furlough. And so actually that was a real bonus for our guys, because they were making a little bit more there. But my initial fear was around them, looking after them and making sure that we could plan our way through that. Planning your way through a misty tunnel that you have no idea where the end of it is something that we've all become a little bit more practiced in than we were before. But yeah, it was tough. And for us, you know, we rely on the property market. We have a construction company that continued to run. The government was very vocal about the fact that they wanted to build their way through it and they wanted construction to continue. That said, you know, not overly well planned, because you couldn't get your hands on any building materials at the same time. So it wasn't easy, but we continued to trade in that company. But our other companies, you know, ceased to trade completely whilst the property market was shut. So we had some pipelined income, some residual stuff going on, but we actually were sat on our hands for probably a good 2.5, 3 months, which was interesting. And if I'm honest, as a business owner, my wife is one of my business partners and my main business partner. I MD the companies and she heads up our sales department. She's very good at that. We may have taken a little while or she may have taken a little while to figure out that that's where she needed to sit. But we do that now. We enjoyed, if I'm honest, we really enjoyed the first 6 weeks of lockdown. We had great weather. We've got 2 young children, and I took it as an absolute opportunity to get some time there that, you know, you'd never have again.
Yeah.
Touching wood there. And you know, let's take the opportunity for what it is, and let's enjoy it. And it was great. But at the same time, we actually doubled down and employed our first ever person in our marketing department.
Well done.
Because we'd not actually needed to do that to find clients, because we were quite fortunate with an introductory service. But we actually doubled down and employed there. And so I worked, you know, in the new normal Zoom way with that person, and we really invested in our social media, in our marketing, and then we really saw the growth coming out of the back of lockdown. As the property market opened, there was a lot of pent-up aggression and a pent-up frustration from investors. We service a client base which is worldwide, and there was a lot of people in different countries needing to invest their funds and get the funds out of their country. So we had a real swell of business then, and it was really supported by the infrastructures that we'd actually managed to put in place partially through lockdown. And then since then, I would say we've been really quite fortunate in the property market's been open. It's been a very, very strong market. Not necessarily the best market for an investor myself, but as an investor-led business. It's a very strong market. It's hard to find good deals. But we've sort of shifted and, you know, changed our primary product, if you will, which historically focused on the professional tenant market. And we've made some moves, signed some partnerships, and we've been doing a huge amount of social housing investing, which unfortunately is the growth market in the UK, you know, through this calamity that is COVID-19. So I think we've had a little bit of luck. I would 100% say we've made that, because we're out there fishing and you know, grinding and trying to look for those opportunities. And we've come up with a really good product, which is being lapped up by investors at the moment, because social housing is growing, and we're able to give investors a fixed contract there, 3 or 5 years. So we're talking about low investment opportunities, low capital opportunities with certainty, you know, in the world where nothing's certain at all. So that's gone very well. But I will say, Chris, you know, I take it back to when lockdown was easing and we all knew that we were going to come out of this, and certainly from in our industry, that the property market was going to open. And Hannah and I sat down and we said, we're going to have to force momentum back into the business. So we had everybody on Zoom calls. We were having, you know, as I'm sure everybody was, we were doing quizzes and, you know, having beer together, but we were also having those individual conversations, looking after staff, making sure they were mentally, more than anything, in a good place. Because I knew they were all catered for financially now with furlough, but then we were staging them coming out of that, making sure the motivation levels were high, really trying to engage in them for the journey of the business. Saying, look, you know, this is the plan. This is how we're really going to have to generate this. This is what your part to play. And we're still, we have 14 office-based employees within the group, so it's still a small company, a small group of companies. But really just trying to sort of engage that intrinsic motivation within people, create that family atmosphere, you know, give people some responsibility as well for where we'd be in a year's time collectively. And yeah, you know, so far we're coming off the back of our best trading months we've ever had.
Wowzers! That's brilliant. It's interesting that the whole idea of remote leadership is so key, because, you know, there's no such thing as not communicating. So non-verbal communicating as a leader, just walking through an office, you're communicating something. But if people aren't in that office anymore, we have to actually adapt and adjust and add.
I think we've got to over communicate, Chris. I've not heard that for a few years. I used to say all the time, you can't not communicate.
Absolutely.
So, but one thing that I think if I'm honest, I felt like I've done my job as a founder and as an MD and as a real leader better than ever because of COVID, and that necessity to go, we've got to look after these guys, are they okay? Are they really okay? And go that little bit deeper. We've been very, very, very busy for a number of years growing a group of companies. And from our discussions already, Chris, I sort of would take my ability to build teams of people as a skill. Yes. But yeah, I've noticed that I really had to go another level deeper. And I think we've come up with a great product, but also the team's performing better than it ever has done.
Brilliant.
And it's growing, and you kind of go, and this isn't happening by accident.
100%. We have to work at it because it is a different, as you said, a different norm. And so it's great. It's great to hear that because as I say, I think leadership, the world is looking for leadership right now, and our clients are looking for leadership, the business community, because nobody, as you rightly say, nobody knows what the future holds. So people with a plan, with vision, and with leadership are going to flourish because there isn't enough of that out there right now.
No, and I think for as fantastic as the government's reaction to all this has been, as far as the commercial support, it does, and I've seen it a little bit where it makes me fearful for people that don't take full responsibility and think, okay, well, this is there, and do you know what? That's great for some people, but we're forging our own path. We're making our own plans.
Right.
What are we doing? Let's take absolute responsibility for where we're going to go, and let's plot this journey, as a fantastic one. Not just I'm glad that the staff are going to get 8%. Whilst I take my hat off to them for that, but I've seen a little bit of it, and I think since sort of mid-lockdown, I've had a few conversations and been into a few places of work, whether that be physio practices or bars or restaurants or anything, and just thought, I hope you're not going to blame somebody else when this is gone. And I would say the property industry has been fortunate, and COVID's been very unfair.
Yeah.
Some industries have been hammered, and some have actually had opportunities thrown at them. But regardless of where you sit within that, obviously there's you either take responsibility for your life and your company and your team, or you don't. And that was the same before COVID, and will only be exaggerated by it, I think.
I 100% agree. One of the simple sort of ways of looking at things that we do at Action Coach is we call it being above or below the point of power, and the point of power below it is blame, excuses, and denial. And that's victim. We're blaming other things, other people. Above it is ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And if we stay above it, and it's okay in my world to go below it now and again. But if I know I'm there, I make a choice to come back up again. If that makes sense. And
we're not robots, are we? Nobody's operating on that absolute sort of performance state of mind 24/7. But we aspire to, and that recognition of it is key. And in your leadership roles, then you've a responsibility, don't you, to be there for other people. As you come last.
I really believe it's about the business's vision, and it reminded me. I love to collect quotes, and one of my favourites is Henry Ford, which is whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And that's the sort of mechanism. Is right now can be considered the biggest challenge, but it also can be considered the biggest opportunity for most businesses, because
absolutely.
If our competitors are not thinking proactively, are not actively trying to take advantage of the situation and grow, then there's space to grow into. I really fundamentally believe. So, yeah, I mean, what would you say is the biggest issue you've had to overcome, and how have you adapted to the challenges you've had?
Well, I suppose there's been different challenges in different companies, but I mean, fundamentally for us, the property market closing was wow, we can't do any business, and our pipeline of income is only going to last so long. The conversation we've just had there's the perfect one, because you could either sit back and say, well, there's nothing I can do here until the property market opens, or you could get bloody busy in planning on how you're going to attack it when it does.
Brilliant.
And when I sat down in early lockdown, and said, okay, so what now? It was a case of, well, where do we need to strengthen? And actually, historically, we hadn't needed to market, but it was a glaring hole for us. We were playing around with some Instagram accounts and doing those sort of things. And I thought, well, we really need to invest there for longevity and for growth and for diversity of client base. And that, so we sort of, we took responsibility for what we could. If we were going to come out of this and attack the property market and make this our best trading year, then what would that look like? And what would that team look like? And what would that infrastructure look like? And where are we lacking? And really, we've used that as a springboard. The first good month for trading, and Hannah was out. We've if you look through one lens, you say we've fallen on the right product at the right time. And if you look beneath that, and you see a husband and a wife sitting at home dealing with two kids and saying, we've got to force some momentum back in here. And you realise that she was out and receiving phone calls from them, sniffing around us, from advertising boards that we put up months ago, and had probably taken 1,000 phone calls that were nothing. And you go, that's not luck, is it? That's 100%. That's what it takes. That's delayed gratification, and it's making it work. So, and she chased that up, and it turned into what has been a really fantastic business relationship between ourselves and our social housing partners.
Great. It's great. I mean, I like the word it needs to get, equity. If we're putting the work in, the challenge with marketing is it's not do a bit of marketing, get a result, do a bit of marketing, get a result. It is over time, but typically it goes in peaks and troughs. So you put a lot of effort in for seemingly no reward, and then all of a sudden things start turning up but it's not by luck, it's because you've done all this work ahead of time. So
it's also one of the easiest things to track as well, isn't it? I mean, we've now got two girls in the marketing department, and they're showing me graphs of website traffic and this and that and the other. And those of you who haven't figured it out, it's definitely not my forte. But you can trace it, you can track it, and you can if you've got the longevity of thought process, you can actually see where you're going to go with it.
I mean, the fundamental for us is marketing's maths. There's a creative part to it, but ultimately, it's a great investment. Is if I spend £1 on it and I get £2 back in profit, then I could why not spend 100 to get 200 or 10,000 to get 20,000? It's just maths, but it's the measurement which you clearly do, which is great because we can demonstrate that. And I would suggest, and I really believe this right now, we've seen this a lot across the businesses we work with, is that our marketing pound right now is worth way more than it would have been a year ago, because very few people are marketing. So that this is about, as Warren Buffett might say, let me get it right. Be bold when other people are fearful, and fearful when other people are bold. And so being bold with marketing right now, I totally applaud, because I'm sure that will, if it's not already, return you a way higher multiple than if you'd done it a year ago.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've seen that, and And if I'm honest, on my sort of SWOT analysis of where are we at the beginning of lockdown, it was a glaring weakness because we'd had that, we'd always had clients from one base, but then actually we were so linear as a business, if I'm honest. We were like, well, okay, what happens if? And I think we'd been ignoring that question. So in one respect, one of the pluses was that we actually had the time to sit back and say, okay, so stop running around, and fighting the weekly fires, and get that space to see the wood from the trees and actually do an accurate analysis. So that was good.
Brilliant. No, 100%. It is. I like the phrase "slow down to speed up." It's like take a step back, and that then you can see what's in front of you way more easily, and plan accordingly. So Joy, go on.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I think that's our, as real business owners and aspiring, as I'm sure everyone watching this is not to be involved in the day to day. That's our real challenge as business owners is you should see the wood. That's your job. You are strategy. You are planning. You are big picture. And obviously we've got to dip into elements of the business to get the people working and the systems working. But if we can't return out to see where we are, I think we'll struggle to really grow something substantial.
Yeah, 100%. Our job is growing it business, and growing it is a different role to running it. It's very difficult to do both at the same time because, obviously running it involves getting stuck in and getting into the detail that can hold us back, can blind us from the big picture. So it is a challenge for many people to often we have to do both roles, but making sure we give the right amount of effort and time to both roles, because leadership isn't management and management isn't leadership.
I'm just writing that down.
Oh, I don't know what I've just said, so I can't repeat it.
All right, it's on camera.
Brilliant. No, that's true. So I'm interested in what adjustments will you keep in place? Obviously, we've all had to change a lot. What can you see the benefits, the things you're going to keep doing?
We're actually back now in a fully operating office environment, and if I'm honest, and I've said this to all the individuals, I think where we are now, so we're in Leeds, we're in some level of partial lockdown at the moment.
Right.
You can have a beer with 6 people, but nobody's allowed in your house. Sort of that we're at that stage of the world. But our office environment has been an actual haven for our staff. We don't go around hugging each other all that much anyway, so not much has overly changed. Desks are well proportioned space-wise, so we've not really had to do a huge amount there. And actually, life at the moment for people is a tad boring outside of working hours, and a bit tedious and ever changing. And I think that actually what we found within our office environment is most of our staff don't work full time from the office. Many are, out doing viewings or out on construction sites, or in marketing can work a few days from home, a few days from the office. So most people have got that sort of role, but it's become a consistency, a consistent hub where you can go back there and you're going to sanitize when you walk in the door, and then actually there's going to be a degree of normality. It's going to be an environment where you can share a laugh with people and have some human interaction, some human conversation. Obviously a huge amount of business going on, but it's something that I've really tried to keep that there. That's what we had before, right? Nothing's changed, but actually it has changed because it's become increasingly important. One of our values as a company is family.
So that
it's something that you've really got to work on. And I've been in previous life as a rugby player, etc. And you've seen all the stuff on the walls before, and most people leave them alone. But I think it's been a real opportunity to look after your people, like you would look after your family, and also create that sort of environment that they can rely on and come back to and think, I know that's there. It's consistent for me. It's actually quite a nice environment. It's a busy. It's a hectic. It's a speedy environment to be in, but it's consistent and it's human. And I'm still getting that. And so, yes, we've kept that, but actually, I think we've probably put more importance on it. And we've certainly kept that choice and variety in the working week. And I think that's what we've You know, we're always going to have an office space because I value what I just talked about so much.
Yep.
But can I work from home? Yeah, of course you can. You need to. Yeah. There are probably 1-2 people within our environment that I don't think they work massively efficiently from home.
Yep.
But what we've done in the last month is gone back to trial that and said, what if, you know, there are things that we can't control here. And if we're told, if we value that environment, but if we're told that's taken away and we can't work together, what will it look like for you at home? Yeah. We're going to have 2-day trials. So we had 2 weeks ago, we had a 2-day trial. You know, everyone's working from home. What haven't you got? What do you need? How have you rearranged yourself? How have you organized yourself? And really, more importantly for me, what are the intricate lines of communication that actually we're doing all the time? And it's because you're sitting there and we can ask those questions. And how has that affected? And, you know, how do we need to alter? So we've tested and trialed those bits as well and just tried to sort of grow a little bit and learn a little bit from that just in case.
Brilliant.
Which is obviously, you know, a good thing to do. But
I'm loving it. It's really interesting. I've always believed that good relationships, whether that's between, you know, whoever, good relationships come with a match of goals. We both want to achieve the same thing, but absolutely. Great relationships come with a match of values. We both believe the same things are important, and whether that's within a team, whether that's with our clients, with our suppliers, making sure people are clear on what our values are is really key. It's one of the things whenever I look at somebody's website, the first thing I want to see is do they have, you know, what values do they have, and do they actually present them? And that's the thing that picked up from your website is you've got your values quite clearly displayed, and family being one of them. And it's great because that's how we attract the right people to us, both team, both customers, suppliers, partners. First thing is talk about values, and it's a big part of successful growth. I think is being clear on what's important. So great.
I agree. I think we've taken on probably 4 staff in the last 3 months, and so that procurement process is still very sort of right in my head, and those two things that you pointed out, that my first conversations, you know, I really want to know what you want out of life,
great,
let alone this employment, because if I can't be a part of helping that happen, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, if our goals, you know, you said goals and values, so if our goals can align here, and I feel you've got all these ambitions within your career, and I really feel I can help facilitate that, assuming you've, you know, got what it takes.
Yep.
And we share these values, and, you know, then why wouldn't this work? Let's jump in bed and let's have a go. But you can quite quickly go through some quick interviews where you say, well, fundamentally the DNA doesn't match straight away. They may not have recognised that, but they've just, you know, told you something where you're like, well, that doesn't fit our long-term plan, does it? So off we go. But
bang on.
The value, you know, I think is just absolutely critical, and maybe something that I think we don't do enough of. If I'm, you know, I like to be brutally honest and critical of ourselves. From a sporting environment, I would literally talk about our values on a bi-daily basis.
Brilliant.
And you're thinking, this is nothing about rugby. Why is he banging on about that? You know, but after a while, it just over now. I think we've been so busy with the growth that we've had in our business for literally the last 3 or 4 years. We've probably not done enough on them. But one thing I have found, so just a bit of a personal reflection, is now we're at a sort of a stage as far as personnel where we've virtually got a full rugby team in the office.
Yeah,
it starts to become more and more important because you can affect the workings of the team and the personnel. You know, obviously we've got sort of 5 or 6 people who've been here 3 years, and you know you've got the right people, and it cascades down. So you're comfortable with that. You're creating leaders, and they're passing on the way we do things here. But I think it only becomes increasingly important the bigger you get.
I totally agree, and it's interesting. We see a lot of people talk about values and vision, and they if they've been in the corporate environment, they see it as something that's very false and shallow. In other words, it's on the wall, but nobody follows it. But my belief is it's the fundamental of successful growth of an organization, and we can grow to any size, especially if we keep true to our values and our vision. And it's that's the core, whereas larger organizations tend to move away from it because it becomes just a corporate tool rather than a corporate fundamental. It's interesting you say it, actually, because I mean, one of my favorite books is the book Legacy, which is talking about the development of the All Blacks. I'm sure you probably read it as well, and that's all about culture. It's not about tactics. It's not about how do we get back to being the best in the world by our skills or our tactics. It was all about the key points of culture that they reignited, I guess, within the team, and and the rest is history, as they sort of say, I guess. Although, not totally, obviously, in terms of that circle, etc. But so, just interesting. Just thinking about going back to the beginning mid-March. What might you have done sooner? Just interesting, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it's
of course, if we, if I'm honest, I think the focus on marketing. If I could do something sooner, I would say why would it take the enormity that has been COVID-19 to enable you, Mr. Big Picture, Mr. Strategist, to sit back and realise that you had a glaring hole in your company.
Brilliant.
So that's embarrassing, and so I would have done that sooner. But obviously, I'm just really pleased we did it. So I think, having had time again, you would have liked to have spotted that gap, but not only spotted that gap, really spotted the value in reinvesting into that gap. Because I would say it's not really I didn't know it was there, but I'll be honest, I didn't really think it would make the difference that it has, and given us the potential to grow.
It's perfect. I mean, it's great. It's just good, that hindsight and realization, because it helps people that are thinking about it themselves. I mean, one of the books our founder wrote, Brad Triggers, one of his most recent books is called Buying Customers, because that's what marketing is. It's as long as we understand the fundamentals of test to measure to create marketing. Marketing is just buying customers. So how many customers do I need? What's the cost per customer? Right, let's invest that to get more customers, and then it becomes really straightforward to grow our business to at whatever speed and to whatever size we choose. So that makes sense. So go a bit more internal. What have you learned about yourself over this period?
Wow, that's a biggie. I think I'm not sure if I've learned anything overly new, but I think what definitely has happened a few times is that it's reignited some passions within me, and it's probably made me reassess where my value is and refocus on that. And I have many holes as a business owner, but one of my great strengths is to recognise that and to put a support structure and a team in place to cater for that. I think looking after people and reigniting my passion for other people. I'd done that through coaching for a long time. But ultimately, on a business journey here and things to commercial goals to hit. So the fact that I can do that, and actually I feel that that's two in the same. I think there's just been that element more focus on the people. I think, and whilst that's not news to me that I enjoy that, it's been a refocus, and that's good, collecting that learning. And I think also, we mentioned wood for trees, and I think what's also happened over the last 3 months for us is that other personnel have come to the company that the plans in our construction company, for instance, we've only just got the team in place. I've been planning for at least 18 months and been working on people trying to get them to come to the company, and then they're long out of their contracts with other people. Directors of companies come to join us, and it's taken a long time to get where we are as far as that team. And having that team in place has enabled me to step back and say, well,
Brilliant.
That team's there now. And again, via that process, I've realised, well, geez, it's a good job because this is where your value is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not of huge value right up in the thick of it because I'm not a builder.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Geez, you should see some of that. It's horrific. I'm not even allowed to hang a picture in my house. I'm that bad at DIY. Don't involve yourself. It's called.
I could definitely empathise with that.
But yeah, no, I think it's just been it's right. I wouldn't say I've learned that about myself. I've reminded myself of that and refocused on those things, which has been great.
I think it's when we talk about learning, it's going from knowing. I hear people sort of say, "I know this," and it's when it goes from sort of here is understanding and here is knowing. If that makes sense, is when we make a change. It's when we know something, it really engages with us here. Whereas understanding things are facts and knowledge, but they're not necessarily. It's knowledge into action that's knowing. As opposed to,
and it's not related to action.
I think so, because lots of people don't. But no, that's great. So just sort of finally, I'm just keen to know what how you see the future. What's the future look like for you and the team and the group?
Rosy. No, hopefully. Growth and diversity, and again, that's always been the plan. If you without going into huge detail of our company, it was always the intention was always to have diversity of product. So we can now cater for, Chris, you'd come to me and say, look, I've got 30k here and it's sitting in the bank. We need to do something with it. And me have several options for you to just have a simple investment strategies there. We can look after you. On the flip side, buying the £2.8 million plot of land in Leeds to put a £24 million construction against it. We're not going to put the steel rigs up ourselves, but we can look after it all. So it was wanting to be. A lot of companies will go into one sector and they'll obviously try and dominate that sector. And if I'm honest, I think that's probably pretty good business advice. For some reason, I've always wanted to be able to look at the whole range. And I think it's because it was only 6 years ago we were starting, and it doesn't feel like long ago to me. I still remember what it felt like to buy my first house, and so I want to cater for those people, and I want to be able to, as a group of companies, take those people on a journey, just like we have done, from buying simple, small investments all the way through to developing, my biggest one's sort of 17 apartments and 3 million gross development values. We've got a long way to go ourselves, but my vision for the NPP Group was to always be able to, wherever it is along this line that you see us and say, I'd like to work with you guys, we want to be able to pick you up and then we'll grow together. And so I think we're a lot further on as far as that setup than we've been before. We're trading really well. We've got the team in place, and now it's oiling that and making it work. So fantastic. Yeah, we're on point. We're on track, and it's getting exciting. So yeah.
And it really sounds like it's wonderful work. With your permission, it'd be lovely to sort of maybe catch up in another 6-12 months and just to look back again from this. And and again, it's such a delight for me to speak to so many people, so many success stories in the middle of what is a significant challenge. And I'm sure none of us take any pleasure in the fact that it's a challenging time for lots of people, but it is great to hear good news stories too.
Yeah, I think so, and it's always it's always one that everyone out there, you very rarely sit down with your friends and tell them what's going on. I think most of my old friends, how's business? Yes, it's great, thank you. Game over. So it's good to have a full conversation about it. At the same time, I think we're quite mindful, aren't we, at the moment, that some people are having a rough time and some people are flourishing. Now, my only advice there would be that people, you've got to, we've been dealt unfair cards through COVID. You know, we've been dealt unfair cards. Now, that's your hand anyway. So it really is a case of sort of acceptance and then plan. You know, where are we going then? Like, if you have to rip the rule book up and start again, then that's where you are. If you have to change strategy, as we predominantly have done, that's what you have to do. And I can't, you know, I can only empathise with the people that have really had elements of their business or whole businesses sort of destroyed, because if you're still not going back to trading, it's very difficult to come through that. But I mean, as you've already mentioned, Chris, you know, when you can affect the business owner's mindset, you know, then that's where everything starts. So, you know, you can only spend so long in grieving, can't you? You can only spend so long feeling sorry for yourself, and you've got to pull yourself out of that and into a productive headspace. So, if we've been a part of that for anybody, then that's an hour well spent.
Thank you. Well, look, thanks again for spending some time and sharing your thoughts and your experiences. And I'm sure from everything you've said that the successes you're excited about are happening, or will be good to catch up, as I say, in another 6-12 months and get your feedback. So thank you very much. We'll add your details to the event. So anyone is interested in learning more about what you do and the group does, I'm sure they'll be in touch. So
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thanks, Chris. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.